Well, hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Automated Advantage. Today we have Mike Dixon on. So, Mike, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your company?
Yeah, thanks, Greg, and thanks again for having me. So Mike Dixon, President and COO of hoopshr.com, and we are an AI-driven recruiting and talent platform. So we also do, and when I say talent, we do a lot of consulting and team building. We do two things. We help hire folks and we help scale them. So excited to be here, talk a little bit about the business and, you know, talk about the future of talent and maybe share some good information out to the market.
Yeah, no, that'd be great. And I mean, I know you and I talked earlier, and well, I've talked about my background in IT consulting and stuff, and I know you've got
Yes.
some niches and things like that. So maybe just tell us a little bit about, why you guys started. What is your differentiation, and what's the value to people like using a company like yours?
Yes. So we started, our founder, Bill Carroll is a senior tech entrepreneur or serial tech entrepreneur. Geez. And Bill founded Hoops about 9 years ago. And that the name Hoops came from his challenge. And we jump through the hoops so you don't have to. He was having a very challenging time hiring great talent. So he said, okay, what if we were able to combine humans and technology together in a great process to bring a superior experience to the marketplace, which is what he did. And we continue to take that a step further. I joined the business to expand a lot of our offerings, build some new products, add some new services. As we think about that, and we think about coming out to the market, the value we bring is twofold. One is we typically help a lot of small and medium sized businesses get access to talent they never would have had at a price point they can't believe. So, literally, the average price of a hire in the United States, according to the Society of Human Resources, is nearly 5 grand. We, on average, will help clients, make a hire at around $2,700 a hire. In many cases, it gets less as you scale with us. The other thing folks have discovered with us is we help bring down turnover in these skilled white collar and blue collar roles that we pursue. And then we help them grow their business with our focus on talent consulting. And when I mean reduce turnover, we have literally cut turnover in half for several of our clients. So 50% reduction in turnover using our hiring processes, not increasing pay, not changing anything else. So for some of our clients that go the whole way with us and say, hey, Hoops, we love what you've done, we will manage their entire recruiting and a lot of their core HR. And we will have an immediate impact on the bottom line of their business. They typically see that they are saving money with us, and that's going right to their profit margins. In addition to improved performance in those key human capital metrics like days to fill and turnover and cost per hire. So it's a really nice 1-2 combination. Unfortunately, it's kind of a well kept secret.
Well, let's get that out there. Let's fix that. Yeah, I think, and it's interesting to me about the retention thing, because I think that's an undervalued value add, right? In the sense that I know what it's like is, brought somebody on, trained them up. Your gut generally tells you early on, but you always, you've invested, so you kind of stick to that. And by the time 3 months is done, you're like, that's, I was right, and I should have done something. So, that to me is a massive value add.
We agree. And you think about just the cost per hire, and we can debate what the cost per hire is, but it's hard to debate that if you have to make fewer hires in a year, you're spending less money on hiring. And it's when I have that conversation with people, it's sometimes we overcomplicate the metrics on saving money in making appropriate hires.
Yeah. So maybe talk us a little bit, because I know that you have some niches that are on the website. I mean, talk through that a little bit, but also, what is different? What is the technique? And I think we discussed this. I believe we did, was also local talent versus the international talent.
Yes. So a couple things. Number one, we are in an AI arms race. So folks will say, well, I can just go out and post a job on Indeed. You can go post a job on Indeed, LinkedIn. We use some of those places. But the challenge now is if you don't have your own AI screening systems and AI process tools, you're going to get overwhelmed because every candidate has access to free or cheap AI, then create a perfect resume and deliver it to you in seconds and a cover letter. And they could probably follow up with you on social media. So the volume and the quality of the interactions from the candidate side is increasing. So number one is how do you deal with that right out of the gate? And then the fun part of it is how do you start to ascertain what's real and what may be AI polish? It can be a great looking resume, but do we really understand how to ask the key questions and screen for that talent with live humans based in the US who actually know the career fields? And so when we get into specialized areas like healthcare, like physicians and psychiatrists, or trucking, or manufacturing, we need to be able to ask questions. And that's part of our value proposition at Hoops is we never use the AI to make a hiring decision, but we do use it to score the candidates 1 to 5 stars and then have a live human, one of our professional recruiters, screen them and talk to them. So that by the time we're bringing somebody to your calendar as the employer, you've already got a vetted live screen candidate that you don't have to waste a lot of time on. You can get right down to it. And unfortunately, we haven't figured out a way to put more hours back in the day, but this is a way to take a little bit of weight off of a business owner, a recruiter, an HR professional, any hiring manager. So that's part one of this. The second thing I would say that's really key, and you mentioned the turnover piece, is if we're using more selective hiring criteria and we're doing a good job benchmarking the compensation, the opportunity, we're producing a better fit. So we use AI, we use our knowledge to really, before we even go to market, recommend the right compensation and benefits package for that role. And we're focused in on that local area. And then we can use some other tools, some social media marketing to find the right local candidates who are within driving distance of your workplace. And all those factors tend to come together. And lo and behold, that person tends to stay in the role and they're a lot happier because it's a better fit for them.
Yeah, that makes complete sense, and I think that's a it's like when you sell your house or whatever it is. It's like somebody says, "Hey, how much do you want for your house?" I was like, "Okay, what's the market? What is all of that stuff?"
Yes.
I want 20 million for it, but it's probably not the right thing. So I think that makes a massive difference in both aspects of it, because then you're not wasting the employee, your customer's time in hiring the wrong candidates who gets on the call and says, "Hey, I thought this job was $400,000 when it's 100,000, right?" That gets both sides of the coin.
It really does. And when you get into it as well, and we can tell you, hey, these are the kind of keywords you should put in your job description. We help you buff and polish that. We show you who you're competing against in the marketplace. We show you where you benchmark against them. Are you offering a 401k? Because all of your competitors are. These are useful data points to apply to get good candidates. We also can tell you, hey, do you really need this certification? Because if you do, that's going to take out 20% of the job market. If you don't, got a greater talent pool. We can go either way, but we want you to go in eyes wide open as to what the experience is going to be. And I think that's important because sometimes we write, especially if we don't hire a lot, we write the perfect AI driven job description with everything in it. And then we wonder why we don't get any candidates because we're out hunting for a purple unicorn.
Yeah.
So
You brought up an interesting topic that actually I was talking to my daughter about this week. So she's in her late 20s. And the question is have you seen a move in the world, like when I started, and I'm been in the business for a while, clearly. You had to have a degree to be the entry level. You had to have, there's definitely, to your point, there was MBA type of stuff. Have you seen a shift in the market where people are requiring a lot less of those types of skills to be able to be hired, or is that still an entry point for places?
So we're really seeing a shift in the market for several things. And I would say, and we're not alone in this, there's an interesting article that just came out about MBAs. And unless you're a top tier MBA, the value of an MBA has declined. And there aren't a lot of people asking for them or requiring them. And you see the same thing with software engineers, right? It's interesting because junior software engineers, even with great degrees, are not as high in demand as much as a middle or mid senior or even senior software engineer who has great experience and can validate that experience, because that person's getting scaled with a bunch of AI agents under them. It's, there was a move a few years ago that came from one direction to say, hey, do we really need a college degree for a lot of those jobs? And so there's great flux in the marketplace with that. And there's also a ton of high quality information available to folks literally at their fingertips now. The question with all of this becomes is, can you do the job or most of the job from day one? That's the big differentiator, and that's whatever, folks continue to try to crack the code around.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's a very interesting conversation because I know AI is, assisting and all of those things. And it's like, yeah, I mean, some of the best hires I've had, first of all, got a degree in a completely different field. So it really didn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was saying, my daughter and I were having this conversation because she was getting a little antsy about not finishing up the college degree yet. And I was like, I mean, I don't think it really matters right now, depending on what you want to go after. If you want to be the CEO of a big company, maybe it's a giant difference. But if you want customer service type roles or those types of things, probably not the biggest deal right now. And you can get good courses online too now. I mean, just to get really certified in some stuff.
You can't. And I think as we go into this, and one of the challenges I see, so one of the first pieces of advice I'll put out to anyone who's hiring right now is take your time in the interview process and come up with ways that you can have the candidates demonstrate the skills and experiences that you think you need for the role. And that's, I would say, I'd be willing to accept a candidate with a couple of mistakes in the resume who can demonstrate that they know how to run the financial model, you know, real time in an interview. Um, Fun fact, we're also advising clients, and these are coming back. In person interviews are now more important than they have been in many years because you can't fake it in an in person interview. You can't have the other laptop open off screen with the AI going. We've even gone so far to have clients do an in person interview that's completely experiential, where they're using a laptop not hooked up to anything to say, okay, create this document for me in Excel, run this problem, do this write up. And for, manufacturing skilled labor roles, hey, have them do a work sample interview. I think that's so critically important in this day and age. And to your point is, if you've got the skill set, you can demonstrate it regardless of the degree. Hey, man, that's bankable.
I mean, that's such an interesting comment. I'll tell you, as my former boss, at one time I had a guy on my team that I had inherited, and he said to me, he was a COVID hire. We wouldn't do it like that again. And essentially it was the same thing, right? He was online, that type of thing. Had the guy showed up because he then showed up to clients dressed in an interesting way and all of those things, you probably would have picked that up in the interview. So I could see that, and I mean people, yeah, they're just not caring. I'll tell you a quick story, and this is I think it's because it's more interesting. My son went to for an interview when he was in high school at In-N-Out, and In-N-Out very very difficult to get into. He was the only kid who showed up in a suit and tie. He researched and everything. They've never done this before from what we understand. They hired him on the spot. And it's like, it just proves the point. Like, if the kid's willing to put in some effort to show up, all the other guys are in sloppy shirts and stuff. It's like, okay, this kid cares.
That's The second piece of advice, like, I love that you said that, because the second big thing I'd say to both employers and candidates is effort takes no talent. It takes zero talent to be on time. It takes zero talent to be properly dressed. And literally discussing with investors on a C-suite hire yesterday, when the investor said, "Hey, did that candidate send us a thank you note?" Doesn't take any talent to send a thank you note. And these things still count. And now that we're in an era where some of the harder skills may go to AI, your ability to deploy those skills, those attributes that signal that you have some soft skills, really important. I think they're going to take on increased importance as we go forward because they're going to be missing from so many people.
Yeah, and I think that, I mean, the other advice that I've taken and I've used this is you do the mental check of like, can I go get a drink with this person, go get a cup of coffee with this person? Would I want to hang out with them? And not in the sense of like you want a buddy, but
Mm-hmm.
it's, I mean, I keep saying the word, but it's just like that, not being weird. It's just, I don't know how else to put it.
That's a good point. We have to qualify that. Depends on the role in the industry.
And as I was saying that, I was thinking, I mean, some people in certain jobs are like, hey, maybe they want weird people, and that's okay. But it's not the weirdness; it's the fit. And it's like,
Yes.
look, can we sit and play video games together? Whatever it is, whatever your thing is that you think you can spend time with that person, I think is a very key component.
Are you relatable to
Hmm.
the people that you are interviewing with? Have you spent the time? And for employers, is are you relatable to candidates? That's the flip side too. One things we pride ourselves on this at Hoops, and we invite people to check out our website, our public record. We have a 4.9 out of 5-star rating on Google. A lot of that comes from candidates who have an experience with us. We think it's really important, even if you don't hire someone, that you create a great hiring experience for them. We insist on it if we're working for you. But that's your brand as an employer. And today's social media, that goes out on Glassdoor, it goes out on LinkedIn, it goes out on the Meta platforms. You've got to protect your brand. And I don't think enough employers pay attention to that. Fun fact, if you have a bad employer brand, that increases your cost of hire sometimes by 20 or 30%.
Wow, it's so intriguing and so interesting, and so maybe a little bit of gear in the same vein of things is so like. What are you guys, your number one challenges? I mean, I've got to believe that, I know, and I'm very speaking from technology, hiring background and stuff, and knowing all of the players out there. Like, what are you guys typically running up against and saying, yeah, okay. And, you've got to fight, say, we're not like that. We're different because of.
Yeah, I think our number one challenge is that transition. First it starts with marketing and building trust through that marketing process. And we're really sensitive to this is unlike say, hey, I'm gonna tune a machine, I'm offering just a new software platform you do business on. We're literally for many businesses touching the thing that is their single greatest expense, their labor. And we're also talking about a personal emotional connection to bringing people into your business. And for a lot of leaders, there's a combination of logic there of this is going to cost a lot of money potentially, especially if I get it wrong. I can't afford to get it wrong. And there's the emotional piece there of and you touched on some of this, is this person relatable? Are they going to come in and be value added to my business? And we all know people who, and some of us have personally experienced, who've made a bad hire. So, and that tends to stick with us more so than even a bad purchase. We as human beings are hardwired to avert loss, which is when you think about it, sometimes we're more, which can make us more avert, not realize the growth potential that's in front of us. We're like, no, I just don't want to make a mistake here. So that's our greatest challenge is working with folks to say, hey, you can trust us. We care about this as much as you do. And, in many cases, we don't get paid fully unless we get that right. But it's getting through the door on that because there are lower cost options out there. You can go post a job by yourself. The question is this something that you're going to be the low cost decision criteria on? Or is this something that you're going to look at midterm and long term value to make your ultimate decision? I'd obviously argue for the latter, but that's a big step for a lot of folks.
I think it's interesting. I saw an article and a tagline the other day that said, are you doing $20 an hour work that's preventing you from making $200 an hour decisions?" And I was like, yeah, that's like, there you go. Right?
Yes, because I'd rather not, that's that loss aversion. Well, I'd rather do the $20 an hour work. Yeah, opportunity cost. And we see this so often. We see it with large companies and small companies. A while back, I had a CEO that was personally on LinkedIn looking for candidates. Not the value added work he needs to be doing for the business. And the CEO, that massive investment from private equity. And to your exact point, it's we need to be able to come in and establish the trust and say, we need to do this work for you, and you need to be focused on much more strategic work. Give us your guidance, empower us to go execute for you. And left unsaid, but ultimately proven out, is we'll probably do a better job because
I
your
was about
specialty
to
is
say
running
that.
this large business, not recruiting.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean,
Um,
that's the thing is, you're in business either because you're a great engineer or a great salesperson. And most people are not in it unless you're in the business you're in because you're a great hirer. Most of so
it, there's a flip side to that I want to get on the table. Some work we do that doesn't directly involve hiring, especially not at first, is as you're growing your business or even reshaping your business, and this applies to all businesses, large and small, because I'll hear this from a lot of smaller companies. Oh, succession planning. I don't have time to do that. Sitting down and thinking strategically about the kinds of roles, not the people, but the kinds of roles you need to hire to grow your business is one of the single greatest long term value creators you can put forth. Because what you're going to do over time is lay out a roadmap. And hopefully, you do this with a trusted partner, especially if you've never done it before on your own. But really sitting down and thinking about those most critical roles in my business, the 10 to 15% that really drive revenue, really drive profitability, and say, how am I structuring those things? What are the key skills and experiences that go into it? And if I have somebody that's in that role, what are they like? And then painting that roadmap and creating that good description of what you want, what the raw materials you need to go into that role. Because a lot of times folks will come out and they'll say, I need a seller. Okay. Do you need somebody that's kind of a farmer that's running key account, managing existing clients for you because you can pick up growth there faster? Or are you looking for a net new organic growth person who's a business developer, who's a total hunter? Because those are two different kinds of roles.
very different.
And we can have that conversation. I need a welder. Okay, what kind? Steel, aluminum, underwater. It's in thinking through these things before we even talk about a person. I think that's really, really important for leaders to consider. And I'm off on a tangent there, but I want to get that piece out.
But I think that's, and it goes, I believe that goes to that consulting component that you talked about in the beginning part of it. And I think that that's true for so many things, right? It's like and here's what I'm hearing, the value add on top of all the other things we talked about is asking you all of the right questions, challenging your thoughts, challenging the process, getting to that point, as opposed to the resume slingers that are out there that say just, hey, give me a few keywords and I'll find you somebody in an hour. Like, to me, that there's I can see my hand. This is what that side and that side is like. It's such a wide gap.
Yeah. If you know, and I say this to folks is if you're looking for us to put a button in a seat quickly, we can certainly give that a shot. The question I would have is, how'd you get here? Now, sometimes things happen, but the other fun question we like to ask is, who are people that say to us, well, I put 3 people in this role over the last 6 months and they've all left? Maybe it's not them. Maybe it's the job. Maybe it's you. Maybe it's the pay. We might want to look at a few of these factors before we just, what's the old joke about the definition of insanity? Repeating the same process and expecting a different outcome? Yeah. And a lot of people get so under stress, they get blind to that.
Yeah. So we're surprisingly enough, we're getting close to the bottom of the hour. I want to flip this just a little bit, and I'm trying to think of the best way to ask the question. But if you were to take a look at people that have been successful in hiring and things like that, is there a commonality? You talked about the culture and fit and all of those things, but is there like a commonality? So like the best leaders we've seen do these 2 or 3 things consistently, maybe just advice to people.
Yeah. From a general perspective, if you want to make a better hire, put some time and effort into the job description, put some time and effort into thinking about day one in the onboarding process, because that's going to go right back into your hiring process. And then put some time and effort, get a trusted partner or partners, do your research on the available talent in the market. So it's kind of, we can break this down very simply, is really get an understanding of what you're going after, a role, not a person, and think about how you will make that role productive even from before day one. What are the tools, the systems, the processes they're going to need when they show up in day one, in week one, month one, etc. And understand you ought to be treating them as a new hire for at least 90 to 120 days. Maybe longer depending on the role.
Mm-hmm.
If your expectation is you're going to hire a seller and by the afternoon of day one, they're going to be bringing in revenue, we need to slow down a little bit.
We've all had that. What's your forecast? It's hey, I haven't even got my badge yet.
Yes. Like, tell me about your pipeline. Yeah, no, I don't need. But there's a strange expectation there that if so, those are the kind of the big 3. I also want to talk in here very briefly about the rock star fallacy. And this is a thing, and I see this at all levels, is I'm going to go out and hire an expensive rock star and they're immediately going to change my business. That almost never happens. And good leaders understand that failure rates, especially for more senior hires, can sometimes be 47% plus. So we want to do everything we can to dial this in. This is not a low risk proposition. So we want to de-risk as much of it as we can. And give it a little bit of patience, a little bit of time and effort. If you do that, again, going back to the earlier comment on effort takes no talent. Preparation does take a little bit of time and effort, doesn't take a lot of talent. And that's where folks can make better hires and create competitive advantage with labor costs over time.
That's intriguing. Like I said earlier, I think the time has gone fast. I think I can talk about this for the longest time. So I appreciate that. So maybe just do a little bit of your commercial again, the name of the company, website, finding you on LinkedIn, whatever it is.
HoopsHR.com, Mike Dixon, President COO Hoops. Reach out to us. You can. We're pretty easy to find. You can Google us and we'll pop up. Always open to new connections, new discourse on LinkedIn, on X.com, Mike D. Lead. So yeah, looking forward to additional connections. Always happy to answer questions too.
Well, awesome. I really appreciate this. It's like you're bringing up so many memories and so much, like almost a little bit of like shivers. I'm like, yeah, I've done that and I've done that and I've done that. The good things and a lot of the bad things. But this is a phenomenal conversation. I really appreciate it.
Oh, likewise, Craig. But we had to bring out some shared IBM background way back in the day.
That's true. Yep. Awesome. Well, thank you again. I appreciate the time.
Likewise. Thank you.